it up. Cause I don't want no peace. I need equal rights and justice. I need equal rights and justice. I got to get it. Equal rights and justice. I'm fighting for it. Equal rights and justice. Everyone heading for the top, but tell me how far is it from the bottom? Nobody knows, but everybody fighting to reach the top. How far is it from the bottom? I don't want no. I want equal rights and justice. I need equal rights and justice. I've got to get equal rights and justice. I really need it. Equal rights and justice. Everyone is talking about crime. Tell me who are the criminals? I said everybody's talking about crime. Tell me who are the criminals? I really don't see them. I don't want no peace. I need equal rights and justice. We got to get equal rights and justice. And there'll be no crime. Equal rights and justice. There'll be no criminals. Equal rights and justice. Everyone is fighting for equal rights and justice. Palestine is fighting for equal rights and justice. Down in Angola, equal rights and justice. Down in Botswana, equal rights and justice. Down in Zimbabwe, equal rights and justice. Down in Rhodesia, equal rights and justice. Right here
You are warmly welcome to today's edition of Human Rights Hour. And as the saying goes, everybody is talking about crimes, but who are the criminals? Joining me for today's discussion is Mr. Malakaido. we started discussing topics on corruption. Today we are continuing to the global level. Without wasting much time, I'll link up with him and we just go straight into the topic for today. Hello, Malakai. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you clear, loud, and then I hope you can also hear me as I also
Yes.
speak.
Yes,
Okay,
now I can hear you.
okay, great. So good afternoon, and I want to humbly also welcome our listeners who are listening to us across the globe on this very, program, which is our human rights bar, and today we would be discussing, as you've mentioned, on how we can combat corruption, and also use the opportunity also to say a very good afternoon to yourself, and maybe probably ask if you are doing very well, and all is well with you. Of course, let me mention that I'm also doing very well, and I don't know if this is custom, but anytime we come, I think you try as much as you can to also ask how I'm doing, and that's why not to let you ask the question. I'm answering for myself. I'm doing very well. Um, so to dive deep to what we've already started last week, and we started talking about how corruption has an impact, or the impacts of corruption on human rights. And for that matter, we decided to look at specifically some of the issues of corruption and how it directly do have impact on the enjoyment of our basic human rights, or the human rights that we have as human beings. So with that, we mentioned some um, typical examples, and also demonstrated to listeners last week on how some of these things have bearings on human rights. And of course, we delved into some questions that came, specifically on how some acts could lead to corruption, and some of those acts may lead to abuse of power, and of course, its impact and direct impact of in this situation on human rights. So as today we are going to be delving on how to combat corruption, and of course, whilst combating corruption, then we are also freeing people and giving people the opportunity to enjoy their rights. So, and that's definitely within our mandate and what we've been doing for some time now. And we believe that if we are able to combat corruption in all aspects of our life, and sometimes let us not deviate from the point that corruption is not only within the public sector of our economies. Corruption has found itself in all aspects of our lives, both in private and the public sectors of our life. And therefore, it's very important that when we are discussing, we appreciate that it's not only within the public service or public servants who commit acts of corruption or are found in acts of corruption. And um, not we should also understand that every basic corruption acts that you involve yourself in as an individual does have a very huge impact on the human rights economy of many of us. And of course, if you are taking somebody's right through education, that is also infringing on the person's rights indirectly through your act of corruption. If it is about monetizing admission and all those things that we saw last week, you are perpetrating the acts of you are perpetrating the acts of human rights abuse on people that you may not even know, people that you don't even think it may be affecting. So let's put these things at the back of our mind as how impactful things that we see may be simple as a norm. And now we've seen corruption has become something that many think it's okay. Yeah, let me just pay the bribe, let me pay it and then be free and be okay. Whilst it may have huge impact. So, how do we combat scam? How and what do to corruption? And I want to focus my presentation today on three areas and three things that we can do. And of course, all these three things I'm talking about: STRAJ, which is the administrative body in charge of investigating issues of human rights abuse within our country, and of course, corruption would come in. Has made, so many write-ups or literature have provided some literature on how we can be able to combat that. Their acts even stipulate some of the things that they can also do to make sure we all fight corruption together. Within the organic context too, we've also been able to put up an office of special prosecutor, and given it the mandate to be able to help us combat corruption within our sphere. And with that, Ghana country also have signed up to many international protocols and conventions that helps us to be able to fight against corruption. And some of these protocols we also can be turned up to other countries as well. In the global community, who are also working hard and as much as they can to be able to fight against corruption. And corruption is a huge conquer within every country. There's no country I think in this world who can boast of itself of not having corruption. But I think what they have always been able to do is to make sure that they reduce the impact the level of corruption, and of course, in reducing that, then we're also reducing its impact on human rights of our people. I think somewhere last 2021, I personally heard the finance minister talk about how much Ghana loses in terms of cash, in terms of money in corruption. He was estimating around 14 billion US dollars as an amount that we lose because of corruption as a country, and that forms about 20% of our annual budget as a country. And if you look at our economy very well, that's really, really a huge problem that we find ourselves as a country. And it is good for us to put in measures to be able to fight these canker, so that the monies that may be there can be used to build infrastructure that we need in our basic schools. And if you travel around Ghana, you would appreciate these huge impacts. And some schools still under mango trees or still under trees, and there are certain places that they even have to study under summer hats. The resources are not there, the books are not there. Even the free SEJs that we have now accepted as a huge policy of the government of the day, and has a huge impact as well. If you look at the number of people who have been able to go through it, it's good for us as a country. However, there may be there are some lapses within it, that if we have the resources, we have the funds, at least double track could have been cancelled. So that is something we need to do as a country. So if we are able to do that, people within the education sector, children, will have access to the compulsory and free education that our constitution mandates or gives us to enjoy the right to free and compulsory education at the basic level. So if we are losing huge amounts through corruption, we are talking about a situation where people will not be enjoying their right to education because we don't have the space, we don't have the infrastructure. Even they have the infrastructure. Our SDG policy, which is on quality education, many of our young people within these villages or these places may not be, let me not even limit it to villages. There are even schools within the greater Accra, the cities, who still have challenges around infrastructure. And if you have this money, this is what you can be doing. On the issues of health, debates currently right now in our country, it's about dialysis, kidney dialysis as a huge issue. People are proposing that it should be added to our national health insurance scheme. The national health insurance scheme, people are also arguing that they don't, for the past, since 2012, when the act was passed, there have not been a conscious effort to be able to restructure how they get their funding or fund for the NHIS. And that's an interesting conversation that I personally didn't know much about this dialysis thing and how serious it is until recently when after the demonstration of the I think democratic hub or so, termed the Julo B Occupy Julo B demonstration. So it's a real canker, it's a real problem, and if we are able to do something about it, we can have solution to the many human rights issues and human rights abuses that we are infringing on the rights of our own people within our country. So, as I said, there are three basic things that I want to draw my presentation to today, which is first, we need to educate. Two, we need to enforce or put in measures to be able to enforce the laws, and also the last one, also have to put preventive measures in place to be able to prevent people from perpetuating the acts of corruption. And as I mentioned, that on the OSP Act, for example, and if you indulge me, it stipulates its object, and as part of the object, the OSP Act also gives the OSP the mandate to be able to put in measures to prevent corruption. So I think the framers of our law appreciate that we need to prevent, we need to educate, we need to enforce. So first, how do we educate our people? How do we educate people to be able to use education as a platform to curb the issues of corruption? No, I believe that the issue of corruption and how it's a moral issue within our country. Are we looking at our educational system to strengthen the conversation around issues of morals? And one basic moral that we should be inculcating in our children is the moral of integrity, and build some level of integrity in them, that when they grow, they understand that corruption is not an act that we need to accept. And you'll bear with me, in recent day, the Pentecost Church to put together an event of such nature to our politicians to even teach them on the moral fibers of our country. And so that's how serious the issues of morals are to the conversation of corruption. And of course, I'm sure that the Pentecost Church did not put that together with just acts of just doing it, but for things that they've seen within our community, within our society, that has become a canker that we need to work against. And those one basic one, the big one, is corruption. And so therefore, can we look at our curriculum and look at how to make sure the teaching of morals is a huge, it forms a huge part of the things we teach our children from the basic level up to the higher stage in life. Can we also talking about education, using education in terms of making maybe public education, where this form through the work of NCC, through the work of civil society, we campaign strongly on the topic of corruption, and also highlight the effect of this corruption, and how, if we are able to put our arms together, we can be able to have some results, and those results will also lead to the enjoyment of human rights of our people. So collaboratively, we would also do the education public one, and that's to the grade of people who have already been corrupted. And for me, I believe that many of our politicians today who are corrupt, they are part and parcels of our community. So they are just a representation of the society that we have found ourselves now, where corruption has become a norm. And so when they get to office, they also practice the norm that we have created ourselves. So it's a good thing we need to do the education strategies, doing something that I have seen recently, these strategies, trying to put our communicate, trying to talk about issues of corruption, open letters, and so on and so forth. These things will have to be enforced and make it a campaign as much as it can. It's also within the mandate of the OSP and its act to be able to embark on public educations of that sort, public education. And that public education can also be collaborated. They can collaborate with NCC and of course with the civil society organizations to be able to work on that. This demands very huge budgets. This demands very huge dedication and commitment to making sure that we go the length and breadth of this country and make sure that fighting corruption or speaking out on corruption is something that we need to do as people and as a country. Second thing, we talk about prevention. How do we put preventive ways in place to be able to fight corruption? And of course, that's why the OSP Act has been cut. That's why we have the RTI bill, which has been passed. We have an RTI commission, which is in charge of making sure that any information that we need can be given to us publicly, so that we scrutinize. That's the accountability process of governance, where we know what is happening, our eyes are seeing, and when they know we are seeing, they would be guided, and it will serve as a preventive measure for them to stop practicing corruption. And of course, how can we also prevent corruption? This could also be done through the I think recently the law on asset declaration. How can we make sure that we promulgate laws that would be a preventive measure to the issues of corruption? And that's why, of course, we have the Act on Asset Declaration, where people, before assuming office, public office, they are supposed to declare the asset. And when we know your asset, and after 4 years now, we have the different levels of assets, we can question the roots of this asset. The OSP can come in, and other agencies that are supposed to help us in the investigation can also come. And that's why this very issue of Cecilia Dapa has become a key issue in our country, and not first on asset declaration. Because if you declare your assets, you know the revenues that your companies may be generating or your assets may be generating. And when we see monies that we don't know their sources, we can question you on where and how you got this money. And if it's not through the act of corruption, you need to be able to prove to us that it is not through the act of corruption or corruption related activities that you may have been engaged in that have gotten you those money. And of course, lastly, we have to look at the issues of enforcement. Whilst we are promulgating laws, whilst we are putting together all these laws, these beautiful laws, and I think as civil society organizations, Jason, some of us now will do all the advocacy to get the laws passed, but the implementation of this law, the enforcement of these laws becomes an issue. So I think it's very, very important for us to look at the issues of the enforcement of this law. And how do we enforce these laws when people don't speak out on issues of corruption? When they see corruption, they can't talk. And that's why at a point in time as a country, we decided to pass the Witness Protection Bill to be able to protect, sorry, did I say witness? Sorry. How do you even call them? Yes, of course, on witness protection. That's one on issues that are within court, which are related to, corruption. People have to testify. That's fine, but that's not what I wanted to mention. I wanted to mention how come this word is just moving? Has just moved out from my mind. It is on where people can report, and when they report issues of corruption, they are protected. Oh, there's a name for that. But then if the word come back to my mind, I would definitely mention it before the program ends. So how do we protect people who are able to speak up on issues of corruption? Because of how dicey it is, and people who find themselves practicing this corruption are people of power. And when we have civilians, when we have people who who are not there, report these issues, how do we make sure that we protect them in the enforcement of the laws that we have? And of course, I just want to repeat emphatically that as people, we need to make sure we speak up on issues of corruption. If you see some corruption, say, just as we put a campaign to say that if you see something, say it on security. Because if you see something on corruption as well, say it, and you have all the protections that we have within the country to be or able to protect you as somebody who is reporting these issues of corruption. Of course, on the enforcement as well, not only we citizens, I started with the citizen part because collectively we have a responsibility to play. However, there are some agencies that are within our country that have been empowered to be able to fight this, to be able to enforce these laws. And those agencies that find themselves within the executive arm of government, like the OSP office that we have now, like the STRAJ, like the CIDs, like the judicial system of government, which are supposed to make sure, of course, the judiciary make sure you make education process not hurried, but you make sure that people receive fair trial, and after that fair trial, whatever the verdict may be, make sure that the verdicts are enforced. And of course, I've never seen in this country where somebody has been put to jail and the person refuses not to serve the jail terms. I don't think I've come across that in the literatures that I've been able to read for some time, or the history that I've been able to look up in terms of the judicial service. So we need to make sure that our judicial services, our police service enforces the laws that we have in our country. What are the consequences? What are the consequences of practicing corruption? And when you are caught in such act, we make sure the law deals with those people. And of course, our society, the chiefs, who sometimes, and even public opinion leaders and people of influence in society, when people are caught up in issues of corruption and they are going to be investigated, we have these people go and beg and plead on behalf of them and ask for their friend clemency. I think one of the ways we can be able to prevent corruption or reduce it at its minimum legs is to be able to make sure that we enforce it. People are sanctioned for their acts that may lead to corruption or lead to we losing huge funds, and also its huge impacts on the human rights of our people. So we need to sanction people. We need to retrieve stolen money, the money that we've been able to people have been able to steal. And of course, the last example I think I came across was the Paulician. Is it Paulician? Atoisian rather, who was the CEO of the defunct CBG Bank, who his case has been before the court for some time now, and I've learned that governments have been able to retrieve some amount of money, and the rest which have not been retrieved, and because of that, I thought we'd have to go and serve a 15-year jail term. So our agencies, our institutions are to help us to be able to retrieve monies, and when these monies are retrieved, we'll definitely be raising revenue for our country, and those revenues could also go to sectors that we may have to empower us in within the country. So these are my key points, my three key or my major ways that we can put in place to be able to combat corruption. And if we can, as a country, and also civil society organization, be able to support and help government to be able to implement these three key things, I think we can go a long way in combating corruption. Whilst we are at it combating corruption, we'll definitely go a long way in making sure human rights is protected and people's rights will not be infringed. People have the right to all the basic things that we've been able to mention in our previous discussion: the right to life, the right to education, right to health, right to even own properties, and so on and so forth. That out of the acts of corruption, people are not people's rights are being infringed in that aspect. So I definitely want to end here And if we have questions, we can really, really delve into the questions. And yes, thank you, Doki.
Thank you, Malachi. It's always a pleasure to meet you, and you have said a lot. Certain things were running through my mind. I was just wondering, don't you think that we are still facing challenges because we are trying to still use humans to fight corruption?
So, so we are using humans to fight corruption, of course. As a society, it's a human society. We may have been able to interface or been able to employ or deploy or other mechanisms that may not be necessarily human, may not necessarily have human interface to be able to curb corruption. And if you listen to Dr. Bawumia within Ghana, he has mentioned about issues of digitization and how digitization have been able to help us stop some of the issues of corruption that used to exist within our system, like the ghost names within the public sector, like the payments the payment of passports at the passport office. Although that is also very, very porous as it's made now, but then those may be ways that we have used technology or inculcated other means that may not have human interface in fighting corruption. So fine, we live in a human society, but this is some of the things that we have been able to do, not using making sure that human interface is removed from certain public services that we enjoy, and that could help us in a long way to fight corruption. Doki.
Yes, as the saying goes, there are always merits and demerits of things, as we know.
Sure.
Do you think there are
Sure.
some positives or merits of corruption?
Ooh. Wow. I don't know how to answer this question because I don't see any merits of corruption. People have argued, and when they talk about a good thing, they have not catch words like good thing. Or I recently was reading one article of that sort who was talking about I think relative something positive corruption, something like that. That people have engaged in corruption and they've used the monies that they have got out of corruption to, I mean, do certain positive things in society, such as maybe building a hospital or even giving scholarships to people to go to school like the politicians do, and so on and so forth. But I don't think that's something we need to encourage. We need to build a society where opportunities or things that are supposed to be done should be done not only by the state, by a combination of the states and private sector to be able to provide amenities and provide all the things that we may talk about as the needs of a country, and wouldn't have to be necessarily wouldn't happen necessarily that we would allow people to go and practice corruption, and when they get these corrupt monies they can use it to make change in our society. I don't think that's something we need to encourage, and not even a conversation we have to encourage on the positive aspect of corruption. Corruption has created a huge vacuum within our country's progress or development. Corruption has affected the progress of our country. It has affected the development. Look, it's because of corruption that we are seeing coup d'etats in many countries within the African sub-region that we are talking about in today's Ghana. It's because of corruption. In most of these countries, do we want coup? Even in Ghana, do we want coup? No. But there are people who think that if it happens today, it may benefit them one way or the other. So let's not even encourage such conversation because they have huge impact on the lives of people. And situations of coup can be there say that it has any positive or from. They'll say yes, of course. When it happens, change of government, things may change, but we keep on going back to the same thing. all the coups that have been happening in the past. Are we not still talking about issues of corruption today? But it was based on corruption that they were trying to undertake those for. So for me, positive for corruption is not something we need to encourage or even give it a hit and beat to discuss. And I'm sure you may have come certain conversations around this area, and that's why you're asking this question. But for me as a person, I don't think it's something we need to encourage. Let's build that society with integrity. Let's build that society where opportunities and things don't happen to us because we may come from a certain part of the world, but then because of we are Ghanaians and we also pay taxes, and the taxes should be shared equally and equally to all sectors of not all sectors, or I mean all the regions within the country, and let's enjoy it as that, Doki.
Thank you. Though I disagree to an extent,
Are you,
personally,
yeah.
and it's because usually we feel certain things we shouldn't even talk about them. Okay, because of our views, our world views, etc. We think it's wrong, it's absurd. Why would these thoughts even cross your mind at all? But this is very important. Why? Because if we get to understand the benefit or why we engage in it, we can then find ways to remedy it. So, for example, if you should ask people why they will do certain things, perhaps you will get something that will baffle you. You'll be surprised about. And if we put some measures in place, it might reduce corruption. Example is avoiding bureaucratic hurdles. You want to go, you want to get something. For example, you want to acquire passport or something very urgent. Okay, instead of you to be able to access it easily, it becomes very cumbersome with all the bureaucratic challenges and all that. So if someone, I'm not saying that's good, but I'm trying to give an example. So if someone can help you, others will just engage in it. So all these things, if we should sit down and view all those ones, reflect, ponder over it and all, we realize that we have made the system susceptible to it. We have made it very juicy for those corruption to thrive. You understand? If we make it very easy, very transparent, such that you can easily acquire certain things, some of these things we can just get away with them. You understand? We wouldn't be having some of these kinds of corruption. Do you agree?
No, I sincerely still don't agree. If we are making a research to know why people practice certain corruption or why people engage in corruption, that's not a big deal. And of course, our findings in those in that research would help us to be able to put in campaigns to be able to prevent it. At the end of the day, we still want to prevent corruption. At the end of the day, we still want to reduce corruption in our society. So I don't think it's maybe an issue of we having a conversation on corruption, or something we needed to start having a positive side of corruption as a conversation. And if we do that, we will end up rather promoting corruption if we have to give it that attention. And of course, there's nothing positive about corruption. There's absolutely nothing positive about it. There's nothing good about corruption that we need to even encourage having a conversation around that area. Look, we have talking about 20% of our budget, to the annual budget, that 14 billion goes into I mean, we lose that amount of money out of corruption. Not only in that area, there are other things that we may have done or we are doing that is really, really hampering on the development of our country. And for me, Doki, I don't think it is, or it would be right to even see corruption and see it and say that there's a there's a part which is good or positive, or maybe I don't appreciate the word positive, but if positive also mean a good side, then I think we may not be doing any good to ourselves. We may end up rather promoting the art of corruption. I mean, that's my view, and that's my take on that very one.
Right. Um, the interesting thing is that, as you are saying, we are always looking at one side. We are one-sided, and it is not working. Why don't we look at the other side? Why are people still engaging in corruption? What is the motivating factor? That is what we are talking about at the positive side. What is motivating people to still engage in it? If we're able to find those, in other words, the positive side, what are they gaining? What is really promoting? We are just looking at the negative. Okay, let's look at what is maintaining, what is encouraging people to engage in it. If we're able to look at the other side, we can then understand corruption and its mechanisms holistically. Then we can have a holistic solution to it. But if we think, even thinking about a positive side is wrong, I think we'll be just going in circles. I don't know whether
Okay,
you get what
so
I'm trying to say. So
yeah,
we are
so
supposed to, when we talk about the positives, we are not saying that it's not necessarily going to encourage people. When I come and I tell you that if you get you engage in sexual acts, you get money. However, you end up contracting sexual disease and all that. It's going to encourage people. Are you saying it's going to encourage people to do it? We have been talking
what?
about, for example, they've been talking about HIV, this, that. But are you saying prostitution and those things, they are still not going on? Because people are benefiting. You understand? But we have to
Yes.
understand why people are doing that. And then we can think through and find solution. I don't know whether you get what I'm trying to say. So we have
Oh,
to
of
find
course.
what the driving force, what is really encouraging, what is making us thrive.
Oh,
Then
I
we
don't think.
can go. So when we talk about the positive, it's not like we are trying to encourage people. It's not necessarily encouraging people. It will not. But we have to
Okay.
understand what is maintaining it. That's the only way. But if people are
Oh,
just thinking of
no, that then I don't
okay,
think we have lost up on that, because I think there are many reports of why people engage in corruption. If it's about why people engage in corruption, that we have had that conversation, and I don't think it's something. If you ask most people, uh, on the top list of why people,
Malachi,
yes,
I'm sorry to interrupt. You
yeah,
see, just like we're asking why people are engaging in corruption. If they are not benefiting, if there's nothing positive about it, do you think they will still be doing it? It's the same thing I'm talking about. Perhaps you are not comfortable with the word, but why are people engaging in it? There's a motivating factor. They are gaining something positive. You understand? So it's the same thing we are talking about. You are asking why people are engaging in it. People engage because they are benefiting. There's a reinforcement somewhere, positive reinforcement. You understand? Why are people engaging in it? Because they are gaining something pleasant. That's the same as
that's
a positive. So there is a positive aspect of it. It's the same thing
uh,
I'm talking.
yes. That same positive is negative to our country, and that same positive that may be known to an individual out of greed. It's also the negative, the holistic negative, or the bigger negative that we're talking about. So it's fine for us to have a conversation on why people are engaging in the act of corruption. But I don't want to. I'm sorry. I have not seen that as the real positive of corruption. But maybe let's use the word. Maybe my problem is the use of the word positive, because in the little I was trying to read on that, and their argument may not be so bad, but it doesn't serve the issues that we are discussing and their impact on the human rights. So maybe it's a wording I have a problem with. Of course, we need to know why people are engaging in the act of corruption, and as it is negative to certain people, it is also positive to those who are enjoying, and they are enjoying because of we not having been able to put in measures to prevent it, make sure we enforce the laws, and make sure we educate the public well against corruption. If we're able to do these things, and that's why we're having this conversation on how to combat it. And these three areas and these three things that I have listed or have mentioned are the things that I think if we deploy them very well, we can really fight the issues of corruption. Let's still engage in finding the whys, but of course, I think it's not a conversation that we need to shy away from on why people engage in the act of corruption. It's a market for people to enjoy, just like the black market being a market for people to sell bad goods and all those things, which is corruption. And if we interrogate the effects of the act, then that's where I think our conversation today would come in, and why we need to be able to propound measures to curb the issues of corruption. And maybe not to maybe just to end here, and appreciate the fact that maybe the wedding positive is what I have a challenge with, but I think that there is no positive side of corruption, no matter the lens we use to look at it. But then, if you want to find the whys and why people engage in it, what people even gain out of that, which is they are positive, but a negative effect of corruption, and we can be able to educate our people as much as we can, so that they dissociate themselves from engaging in an act of corruption. I think that's fair to do, Doki.
Right. Sure. But perhaps we may have to come back to this topic.
Conversation. Our time is almost.
Yes,
sure.
our time is almost up.
Sure.
I mean, right.
Yeah.
Your final words, the details of Bluetooth, and then we can run up.
Okay, so I just want to appreciate everybody who listened to us this afternoon, and to thank them for continuously following our program and our discussions. And I'm sure that they really enjoyed today's one. Was talking about how we can be able to combat corruption in our society. And I just want to highlight that I think we should educate our people as much as we can. We should be able to put in preventive measures, and we should be able to enforce our laws by sanctioning people and also retrieving lost funds our lost funds through corruption. And when we are able to do so, we can be able to promote the rights of our people. We can get more money to be able to build the infrastructure we need as a country. We can be able to build a society where integrity is key to the development of our country. From young age to last age, we need to instill some level of morals and know the impact of the things that you may do, not only on the generations of today, but the generations that are in the future to come. Corruption has destroyed our country. The one that beats my heart, that hurts me so much in recent days, is how we have allowed our country and its minerals to be mined in such ways that it's now having an impact on the health of our young children, including their education, their academic performances in education. And when I went to the Western North region, I've noticed that most of our young people, excuse me to say, in English, is now academically they are not performing. And I was asking myself, why? Today, an actual Monday, when the documentary came out on Poison for Good, we would appreciate how we have allowed foreigners, we have allowed our own people through corruption, and they have destroyed our minerals, our lands, and this that they have done now will have a big effect on the health of our children and the academic performances in their education. Not only that, our climate is being damaged hugely. There are some years to come, we may have to find a different place to go and live. if we don't stop corruption today. So, ladies and gentlemen, young, old, I think we need to all put our arms together to fight corruption. If you want to follow Glody or want to join us, kindly go to any of our social media handles on Glodiv Ghana, and you'll be Human Dignity Forum, and you can be able to follow us and join us. If you want to reach out to our acting director, he's in the name he's the person of Kwame Nkrumah or Kwame Sebastian Nkrumah, and his numbers are +233 2459799391. Lastly, 02 sorry, so +233 2459799391. And you can reach out to us on our social media handles as I've mentioned. Our website is also active, and you can call up. We can partner and make sure we combat the issues of human rights abuse within our country. And please stay safe, and let's take injustice personal. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. So this week, my brother will celebrate his birthday, and I want to wish him a happy birthday. On 17th of October, my brother, Akwantufuo. So from the family, especially Fidele and myself, we wish you a happy gargantuan birthday. We appreciate you for showing up in our lives. Thanks for joining us today. It's been interesting discussing corruption. We'll come your way again, same time next week with another topic. So please make a date with us. As usual, my name is Dorcas, but hey, call me Dot. It's bye for now.